tracking developments in the trial of 3 Tacoma police officers in the death of Manuel Ellis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Christine Pay. Ellis died while being restrained by police in March of 2020. Officers Matthew Collins, Christopher Burbank, and Timothy Rankin are all facing charges in his death. King 5 is live streaming the entire trial from opening to closing statements. We take you now to the courtroom live.
I think under criminal 3.4, we don't really have a choice. If the court thought he'd gone to Montreal, for instance, then he could have voluntarily absented himself, and the court would then be authorized to proceed in his absence. But given that it appears that he's genuinely ill and therefore his absence is not voluntary, we have to await the time when he should be back with us again. And my guess that would be his, given my understanding is this has to do with a migraine headache kind of thing, right?
No, I'm not entirely certain. I'm not sure that it does, but he's we're not aware of anything.
So it could be a kind of a flu or something like this too.
Well, Judge, he's at my office right now.
Okay.
Curled up on the couch, shivering, so I don't think it's the same thing. He's thrown up multiple times.
So if he's shivering, I suppose he's got a fever.
But I think he's waiting there for word from the court. He's not going anywhere.
Okay, so anyway, so it doesn't look like his absence is voluntary because he's absent due to illness. So I think under the rule, I don't really have an option. So we'll be at recess until our next judicial day on this case, which is Monday, December 4th. Mr. Fricke, you've got a question? I'm seeing a hand up there.
For instructions, and I assume the clients do not have to be there when we give you instructions tomorrow. Are we still doing that?
Clients don't have to be present for that. I don't believe that's a mandatory appearance.
Correct. I don't believe so either.
Yeah. When you guys come, I do want you to have got everybody's proposed instructions with you, at least. And 2, that you've numbered them in advance in the order in which they were given to me. So when I say we're talking about defendant Burbank's instruction 5 or something, all the other participants here will know exactly which one we're talking about instead of flipping pages, which one we're talking about, right? So if you've pre-numbered these things, that'll make things easier. We're not going to live stream that, but the courtroom will be open to the public. So if people want to attend, they're certainly welcome to do so. It's usually kind of an arcane deal. We're not taking evidence. And we're not even making any final decisions. We're trying to talk through whatever issues might be and see whether we can agree on anything or not. And also to educate me to some extent about the extent to which the legal implications here may have eluded me on first blush. So we'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon for that, at least. Ms. Eakes.
Your Honor, just for clarity in terms of witnesses, we have been told that just the defendants might testify, which we understand is still a possibility, and understood there wasn't necessarily going to be any other witnesses. Now, I've been told by Mr. Conrad that they may or may not call Dr. Levine, which we have been told yes, been told no, and now he indicated, they'd tell us just 24 hours in advance. So we just asked to know one way or another whether or not they're intending to call Dr. Levine. Obviously, it affects our preparation, and it affects the timeline, obviously, of the remainder of the case as well.
Dr. Levine, if memory serves, as a associate professor of emergency medicine at UCLA.
And toxicologist.
And toxicology. And there was also a Professor Michael Fishbein that was discussed, I think. Is he being called?
I don't think I know.
I'm sorry?
No, Your Honor.
So he's not. But as for Dr. Levine?
Just Dr. Levine.
So you still expect to call him?
I wanted to confer with the rest of the defense team. What I said originally was I wanted to see how the testimony went with Mr. Lewis, and then we wanted to confer on it to determine whether we needed to call Dr. Levine, so that I'm maintaining that position.
Well, give me just a second. Mr. Lewis, obviously this inconveniences you to a great extent. Can you still be here on Monday morning?
I can.
Bless your heart. Okay. Now, with that, we can excuse him today.
Correct.
So you can stick around if you want, I suppose, but because it's a public courtroom. But otherwise, we'll excuse you at this time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. Here's the only problem I see with what you just said, which is if for whatever reason you decide you want to call Dr. Levine, once the testimony of Mr. Lewis has been completed on, hopefully on Monday, he's in Los Angeles, I take it, if he's a doctor in UCLA. And so, that means, I don't know whether he's going to be available at 10:30 or whatever on Monday morning to testify. You got to make a decision before then if he's going to be available right after him, or unless you've got some other witnesses you're going to call before him.
We can certainly call their witnesses if he wasn't available. That's why I needed time to check to see his availability with how this week went, kind of threw everything off schedule a bit. But I can contact him this afternoon, and I want to speak with the rest of the defense team on calling.
Well, I don't inhibit you from talking to them, but of course I will remind you of your own independent duties, which means you can tell them you're going your way regardless of what they think.
You're absolutely right, Your Honor. And, so Ms. Brunner is part of that conversation, our client's part of that conversation, and so.
Sure.
Ultimately, you're right, it's Officer Rankin's defense team that's going to make that decision.
Right.
But
Well, but in all fairness to the state, they need to have, especially with respect to an expert witness, they need to know whether this person is coming or not. Now, besides Dr. Levine and, of course, Mr. Lewis, are there any other defense expert witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
That should make your life a little simpler.
Well, it does, but I also just heard a reference to there are other people, other witnesses that we could call.
Well, they could call the defendants, I suppose.
Well, aside from the defendants, but are there any, we understood there were no other witnesses, but if that's changed, then obviously we're just entitled to.
I don't know if you're calling any of the other individual officers who were
The motion
present.
eliminates that we give notice of who we're going to call 24 hours in advance.
Right.
The defense was getting notice of witnesses Sunday morning for witnesses Monday morning.
Doesn't that, the thing about that argument is,
Two wrongs don't make a right.
there you go.
You're right. So I can let Ms. Eakes know on Friday morning what other witnesses we intend on calling on Monday. That would be 24 hours in advance.
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay. You're right. I'm going to.
We're going to know about it because we're all going to see here Friday afternoon, and Ms. Eakes is going to tell me, I didn't get an email from him.
You're right.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out obviously where the case
No,
is.
reasonably, I'm on your corner on this.
We're all trying to plan for closing, et cetera, and so
No, you're
we
preaching,
didn't hold one thing, and last weekend we prepared for a bunch of people that we were told on Monday morning.
yeah.
Aren't.
No, you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, I agree with you, but obviously with the one exception of the defendants themselves, I don't really have to tell you that. So,
I was relying only on what they told the jury, Your Honor. But obviously I understand that may change.
yeah. Okay. So with that, I guess we'll excuse you all, and we'll see you tomorrow afternoon for the jury discussion. That's not on the record, but as I say, it'll be an open court. So we won't have streaming, but we'll otherwise talk with you about it. Be prepared, as I've suggested, with at least having numbered them all. And I'll have Mr. Mattson here, who is substitute for Susan this afternoon, let the jury know that because of an illness, without identifying who, of one of the participants, that we're postponing the rest of the case until Monday.
Your Honor,
Okay.
Mr. Conrad and I spoke about, I think he's going to send me, or give me the highlighted version of the documents that he wants the medical records, so hopefully we can have that ironed out before Monday as well.
Boy, that would be great. That would be great. Maybe you guys can take the time this afternoon when you're to work out some of that. Okay. So if there's kind of a glass half empty kind of guy over there, Mr. Purchase. Well, okay. Is there anything else we need to take up before tomorrow afternoon? All right. So we'll see you all. And then we're at recess.